One.
Folks, we're back. I'm your host, BKP. Good morning from the office. We are now joined on the line. Republican candidate for governor is with us, Secretary of State of Georgia, Brian Kemp. Secretary Kemp, how are you today?
Hey, doing great. Good to be back on with you all. Beautiful day in the great state of Georgia.
Well, I thought for some time our program would let you or stay back just a little bit while you had to campaign in downtown Atlanta at a lot of those air-conditioned big rooms, but we felt it was about time to welcome you back to North Georgia for a little break. How about that?
Oh, absolutely. Look, I'm glad to be back on with you guys. We're going to be working hard and moving all across North Georgia from east to west and everywhere in between as the campaign unfolds here after Labor Day. I have been hunkering down in the office a good bit, trying to raise the money we need before things got heated up here after Labor Day, and we've been very successful at that. Got a lot more to do, and we'll be up that way doing some of that as well. But you know, as you know, I work very hard on the ground. I believe I got the best statewide base of any candidate in the governor's race and any candidate that's left in the governor's race. And we're going to prove that again by taking our message of putting Georgians first right to the eyes of those Georgia voters.
I want you to get an opportunity to get to make it through the weeds of the other media and tell us a little bit about your proposed tax incentive or plan for veterans of Georgia veterans. Tell us a little bit about that.
Absolutely. I got nervous when you said proposed tax. It would be a tax break.
Yes, sir. Yes. Yes. Don't get nervous, sir.
Don't leave those listeners hanging out there.
No.
Yeah, we had a great press conference yesterday. Really fantastic, diverse group of veterans from all over the state, all walks of life, from all 5 branches of the military. And we've been working on that for a long time. As you know, back in the primary, we had our Veterans Coalition meeting. And not only have those folks just been a name, you know, they haven't just been a name on the list. Those folks have been helping us develop policy. And they've been sitting down, having meetings and hashing through this. And we rolled out yesterday in the press conference, elimination of income tax from retired military service members. We also are going to create, when I'm governor, a military liaison who's focused on maintaining dialogue with the U.S. Department of Defense in regards to our great military institutions and anything else military or veteran-wise here in the great state of Georgia. As you know, we support our veterans. We support our current troops, our Guard, and those that are helping protect our country, as well as our first responders and all those folks on the ground. So it's important for us to get that message out. The other thing that we're going to do is we're going to support transitioning the Veterans into Workforce initiative, which is basically funding Veteran Career Transition Resources Center, which is, abbreviated to be the Vector program, and it was a satellite program. And we want to expand that to all of our technical colleges that will support veterans with job training, helping them get back in the workforce and other health care issues that they're having to deal with on their return. And just so that we thank them for their service, but we also need those qualified workers in our economy right now. I hear that everywhere I go.
All right. Well, Secretary Kemp, let me ask you a question. I'm not going to take on Google this morning, but I will tell you this. What I thought I would do this morning is just come in, type your name into a Google search and hit news. Type your opponent's name into Google search and hit news. I will tell you this. The top 6 or 7 of your opponent's articles are very positive concerning your opponent, and it only takes to the 4th article for the New York Times to tell me, or want to tell me, you're an enemy of democracy. How do you plan, and I'm not going to say it's Google, I just see it as maybe a lot of media is trying to help, in my words, your opponent get their message out. How do you plan to get your message out past this kind of media?
Well, you're exactly right, and Georgians need to know that the New York Times, the Huffington Post, the Washington Post, and every other liberal publication across the country is in the tank for Stacey Abrams. I mean, she's the darling of the radical left. She's being funded by, people like George Soros, that gave $1 million to the Democratic Party, a month ago to help kickstart her campaign, start running her first positive television ads, because they know that she will move the progressive, liberal, radical agenda in Georgia to grow government, spending your tax dollars, raising your taxes by doing away with the Trump tax cut here at the local level, the offset that was passed. She said that. Big government programs that are unsustainable in our economy, universal health care for everyone, taking your child from zero through career. What that means is if you're a hardworking Georgian out there, you're gonna be paying more money to the government. And I have the exact opposite approach to that. I want to streamline government. I want to take private sector solutions to tackle the problems that we have and make government more efficient, and provide more health care accessibility for people by using efficiencies in the private sector in the government model. And that is completely different from what she wants to do. And it's no surprise that publications like the New York Times are in the tank for her. Republicans see this all the time. And the way we combat that is we're going to hit the ground. Obviously, we're raising money to get our message out, but we're also going to be just hitting the ground and talking to voters, literally eye to eye, explaining to them, look, you control who the next governor is. It's not some, liberal publication or some donor from California.
Okay, as I watched last night, and again, forgive me for saying this, a Democrat governor debate in New York. I know you've told me before to stop reading and watching that stuff, but as I watched that last night, I heard Cuomo up in New York just go right after ICE and how he will not cooperate with ICE. Let's come down to Georgia. Will you maintain your illegal alien positions and cooperate with the federal government with ICE? Will you maintain those same positions now that you did in the primary?
Well, absolutely. I think one thing voters, know about me and will know about me is that my message is not changing. I'm going to keep talking about my conservative 4-point plan. Public safety reform is a big part of that. My opponent and I will differ greatly on how we do that. She wants to give everybody a get-out-of-jail-free card, and I want to track and deport criminal illegals, those Mexican drug cartels and others that are here, selling and distributing drugs in our great state, creating, more sex trafficking, contributing to the opioid epidemic. But I'm also going to be going after street gangs. I have a detailed plan to stop and dismantle gangs that I've worked with a lot of local district attorneys on, state and local law enforcement on. And we're going to tear down silos where we can go after the 70-something thousand gang members that we have in our state that are literally wreaking havoc in our neighborhoods with violent crimes and shooting up our young children.
All right. I know, and I know your campaign is well aware of this, that the national media will actually try to come in and set the tone and direction for this campaign for us Georgians here and not stay out of the way. They're doing that now as we speak, trying to set the tone and set the issues. I know the Stacey Abrams, the George Soros side of the party completely. They do not want to protect my Second Amendment, is my feeling. And I say it harshly that they want to take my guns away. They say they don't, but we really believe that that's what their agenda is. Now, will you maintain your Second Amendment positions? And also, a lot of the shootings that take place, we see them in gun-free zones and stuff. So are we going to be looking at a little different approach on maybe some of these gun-free zones and different things where that's concerned? And will you maintain your Second Amendment position that you've had in the primary?
Well, I've been consistent on the Second Amendment for a very long time, and certainly my record in the legislature in the early 2000s and my support as a statewide elected official now for the last 8.5 years is very strong, and it will continue to be, not only a supporter of the Second Amendment, but an advocate for that. So that position will not change. There's no doubt that the left wants to continue to tear down the Second Amendment. Even some liberal members of the court wanting to do away with it, which is just outrageous. And I hope that will excite your listeners to, work hard. We have got to get our folks out to vote. We cannot be complacent. We cannot have the attitude that there's no way that my opponent can win, because she absolutely can. We can't take this race for granted. The whole country is in the tank, or at least the left-leaning part of our country is in the tank for her, including the media. And I hope that will just infuriate our base and have them working hard to get the vote out for us.
While your opponent, Stacey Abrams, is actually spending time at the HRC, Human Rights Council, with Eric Holder, they are going to try to do everything to lead the citizens of Georgia to believe that a religious freedom liberty bill that you said you would sign that mirrored the federal bill, they're going to try to lead the people in Georgia that the LGBT community and a bill like this nature would be discrimination. How do you clearly tell the voters that a religious liberty bill that mirrors the federal bill is not discrimination?
Well, it just doesn't. I mean, if you ask any legal scholar that question, their argument that would discriminate, then they're also saying that the federal statute would discriminate. I mean, that just makes no sense to me. It doesn't discriminate. We're not going to be a state that allows discrimination, but we are going to be a state that protects your religious freedom and your religious liberty. That's something that this country was built on. We should be proud of that and not be afraid of it. And my position will remain constant as governor as it was in the primary. And I said that, this week at a tourism conference, that I would push for and sign a mirror image of the 93 federal statute. And, that will put that issue behind us. It won't hurt business other than the propaganda that you see in the media. And we can deal with that, but we can also be a state that protects everyone's rights, whether it's religious freedom or anti-discrimination, and we'll do that.
Okay, I know you have to move on. You're doing one interview after another. We appreciate that. So we only have a minute. I watched your recent commercial, and there's two subjects in there of interest to me. If we can only cover one, okay. But education, you continually say, return it back to local control. Not quoting you, but returning it back to local control. What's that mean in a Brian Kemp governor's office in Georgia, education, returning it back?
Well, I've been a proponent of more local control, less testing, really working with the local educators, administrators, and school board members to let them simply do their job and let those teachers out there teach the children that they know better than anybody at the state does. And that's what our proposals and plans will be as we release those. And I'm looking forward to doing that. And we continue to work with that whole community on all these education issues as I speak.
Okay, in your commercial, my words, not yours, but in your commercial, there's a reference to basically if you're able-bodied, you need to go to work. If you're not, state of Georgia, you and I, our taxpayers will do something to help you out. But able-bodied people will be required to work. Those are my words. That's kindly in the commercial. Can you answer that? I know you got to go, sir.
No, absolutely, I will, and I believe that. I think that's going to be a big issue when you talk about my opponent being a big government, liberal versus me saying, hey, if you're able-bodied, you need to be in the workforce. And I think we have too many people at times sitting at home on the government payroll when they could be a contributing member to society. No one wants to take care of the most vulnerable more than I do and have good, efficient government to do that. But we need people in the workforce. We don't need people gaming the system. And that is my position, and it will continue to be that.
Thank you very much, Secretary. I appreciate it. We, when you get up here to North Georgia, stop in and say hello. And you're always welcome here at fyntv.com. Thank you, and wish you well in your campaign.
Thanks for having me on again. Great to be talking to you guys. Have a great day.
You too. Okay, folks, that is the Secretary of State of Georgia, Brian Kemp. Brian Kemp is the Republican candidate for governor here in Georgia, opposing Stacey Abrams, the Democrat candidate. Just for you out there, let me say, Amanda has reached out. We have reached out here multiple times. We got several emails. And Stacey Abrams is welcome on the show. Welcome to call in. Welcome to come in the show in person and do an interview, as Brian Kemp has done in the past in the primary. We offer all candidates. So Stacey Abrams, just for you out there, has been invited. We're awaiting an opportunity from her office to get something scheduled in here. I'm going to take a brief break and we'll come back. I'm going to break down a couple things in the governor's race, and then we'll get right back into the things we were discussing earlier. Take us to break.